Hello everyone, welcome back to Foot Forecast. In today's video, I'm going to be going through my Champions League predictions for the round of 16. I'm going to be discussing the first leg as well as discussing who I think will go through overall. So let's start off with the first game, which is between PSG and Chelsea. And PSG haven't been great this season. They've been struggling in Liga and they're only a point clear of Lens in first place. And at this stage, you usually see PSG sort of 10 points clear at the top of the table. As well as this, they had to go through the playoffs where they scraped past Monaco. So it's not been great for PSG recently. And they just actually lost their last game at home to Monaco as well. So PSG are struggling. Ousmane Dembele may also be out for this game, which would change PSG's fortunes. You'd expect he's crucial for them. And they're just not the same side as they were last season, where it looked like they were easily the best side in the world. Looking at Chelsea, pretty similar to PSG. They haven't been at their best recently, and it's two pretty inconsistent sides, but they are coming off a really good result away at Villa, winning 4-1, where Palmer and João Pedro played really well. Palmer is going to be so important for this game because he's a big player and he usually steps up in the big moments, so they're going to be hugely reliant on him for this first leg. I think for this first leg, I'm going to go with a draw between PSG and Chelsea. I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw, and then I think Chelsea may well go through overall. I think a crucial factor for these two legs could be Chelsea's discipline. That's something that worries me about Chelsea. They've picked up so many red cards this season. They really can't afford a red card in a game like this. If this happens, then I'd expect PSG to go through. So then we're on to the next game, which is between Galatasaray and Liverpool. And Galatasaray looks great in the first leg against Juventus, but then they were poor in the return leg, but they did still manage to qualify to the round of 16. And these two sides have actually played each other earlier in the season, and it resulted in a 1-0 win for Galatasaray at Rams Park, which is where this first leg is. And I would say Galatasaray will need a lead in this first leg to have any chance of picking up a positive result at Anfield. But in saying this, Liverpool haven't been at their best so far this season, and this has resulted in them being in 6th place in the Premier League. It's really not been a great year for Liverpool. Slot is under pressure and he can't afford to go out in the round of 16 of the Champions League. The wingers for Liverpool have been rather ineffective this season with the likes of Cody Gakpo and Salah. And I expect this first leg to be really interesting. I feel where Liverpool can get at Galatasaray, though, is sort of on the break using the space which Galatasaray may leave in behind, because they're going to look to press Liverpool high based off their performance against Juventus at home. So for this reason, I'm actually going to go with a 2-1 win for Liverpool away at Galatasaray. And then I think Liverpool will win the tie overall at Anfield, which will put Liverpool through to the quarterfinals. So then we're on to probably the biggest game of the Champions League round of 16, and it's between Real Madrid and Manchester City. No surprise these two sides are meeting each other because we seem to get this game every season now, and it is starting to become a bit boring. But anyway, it's still a heavyweight clash between two sides that will be looking to win the Champions League. Looking at the recent form of the two sides, Real Madrid could have been better recently. They've lost their last 2 out of 5 games in La Liga, and they've got some crucial players out potentially for this game. And we know that Bellingham and Rodrigo are definitely out, and potentially Mbappe is out with a knee injury. But I reckon he probably plays because I think Real Madrid will be willing to risk him for a game like this. And they need to play well in this first leg at home, because I would say Manchester City are the favourites going to this game. They've looked more convincing recently despite that draw to Forest at home. And City are starting to play well. Semenyo's been playing well. And they've looked a lot better since the signing of Antoine Semenyo and Marc Guéhi, two players that will be crucial for this game. I think for the first leg, I could see Real Madrid at least getting a draw in this game. I could see a player like Vinicius Jr. stepping up. So I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw for the first leg. But I expect Manchester City to overturn this and go through to the quarterfinals. A factor with always Real Madrid, though, in the Champions League is that they have this ability to just step up and find ways to win. But I don't think they'll find a way this time. So then we're on to the next game, which is between Atalanta and Bayern Munich. The only Italian club left in the Champions League is Atalanta now. And they came back against Dortmund, another German side. after being 2-0 down to win 4-1 in their last Champions League game. So maybe there's a chance that Atalanta could cause an upset in this game, but realistically, this should be a simple win for Bayern Munich over Atalanta across the two legs. And I think it's absolutely crucial that Atalanta win this first leg for them to have any chance. Their recent form in Serie A is poor. They haven't won in their last 3. So it's hard to see them getting anything from this game. But looking at Bayern Munich, they've picked up 5 wins in their last 5 games. So Bayern are in a lot better form going into this game. I think for the first leg, I'm going to go with a 3-1 win for Bayern Munich, and then I think they comfortably go through in the second leg. Then we're on to the next game, which is between Newcastle and Barcelona. I really do like this Champions League tie, and I'd love to see a side like Newcastle go far, but it's going to be very difficult up against this Barcelona side. And Newcastle have a key injury going into this game in Bruno Guimaraes. He's absolutely crucial for this side, so he's going to be a massive loss up against such a quality opposition. Looking at Barcelona, Barcelona also have some injuries going into this game with the likes of Balde and De Jong, also Koundé's out. But Barcelona just have a lot more quality than Newcastle, so they'll be able to replace them for this game a lot easier, and their form's a lot better than Newcastle's. Barcelona have won their last 4 games in all competitions, and Newcastle have only won 2 games in their last 5 games in all competitions, and one of those games was against Karabakh. So it doesn't really count because of the quality of the opposition. For the first leg, I actually expect Newcastle to press high, try to put Barcelona under pressure and use St James's Park, but that's going to be difficult going up against a quality opposition like Barcelona, and it's hard to see them winning this first leg despite it being at St James's. I think for the first leg, I'm going to go the same score as the league phase. I'm going to go with a 2-1 win for Barcelona away at Newcastle, and it'll be a simple win for them at the Nou Camp. I think the only way in which Newcastle can win this tie is by winning this first leg, so they have a lead going into the game against the Nou Camp, but I just don't see this happening. Then we're on to the next game, which is between Atletico Madrid and Spurs, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but Spurs are in the Champions League Round of 16 after somehow finishing 4th place in the league phase, despite being 16th place in the Premier League and one of the favourites to now be relegated. And it's hard to see Spurs getting anything from this game. You'd expect Atletico Madrid to win this first leg pretty convincingly because Spurs are an awful side right now. That's really the only way to put it. Spurs have so many injuries going into this game. The only positive news I can find for Spurs is that Van der Ven and Romero are available, both of them. And when those two play together, Spurs do have a good record. But recently, neither of those two players have stepped up for Spurs in any way, and that's a reason why they haven't won in the Premier League this year. I think for this first leg, I'm going to go with a 2-0 win for Atletico Madrid over Spurs, and then I think they'll go through in the second leg pretty easy away at Spurs. So then we're on to the next game, which is between Bodo Glimt and Sporting, two sides that I don't think people really expected to see in the Champions League Round of 16, specifically a Bodo Glimt, who have had a remarkable Champions League campaign so far, winning home and away against Inter, winning against Manchester City, and winning against Atletico Madrid. And they've got to have some confidence going into this game. A potential concern for Bodo Glimt is they haven't played a competitive game since the Inter Milan game. But that was the same scenario they had going into the game, and they won it easily. So I don't think it's going to bother them too much. And Bodo Glimt just looks so dangerous right now on the counter-attack, and I once again expect them to exploit Sporting in that way, especially in the second leg. And I think what's going to be crucial for Bodo is a first leg home win. And then this will allow them to sit in and hit Sporting on the break in the second leg as they'll be defending something. Sporting going into this game are in decent form. They picked up 4 wins in their last 5 and they're second in the Portuguese league. But I'm going to go with the Bodo win. I think their fairy tale continues. I want their fairy tale to continue as well because I think it's a great story. And for this reason, I'm going to go with a 3-1 win for Bodo Glimt over Sporting, the same scoreline that they won against Manchester City and Inter Milan. And this isn't unrealistic because Sporting are a worse side than Inter and City, so you could definitely see them losing by the scoreline against Bodo Glimt. Then we're on to the final game, which is between Leverkusen and Arsenal. Probably the easiest game to predict, apart from maybe Atalanta Bayern Munich. You'd expect a comfortable win for Arsenal in this game. They're the best side in England right now, and they're the best side in the world, in my opinion. They're just so hard to beat right now because of how good they are defensively, and they've picked up 4 wins in their last 5 in all competitions. And it's just so hard to see Bayer Leverkusen getting anything from this game. I think it's more of a question of, do Bayer Leverkusen score against this Arsenal side, because they're just so good defensively. Looking at Leverkusen recently, their form's not good. They've only picked up 1 win in their last 5. And they're also 6th place in the Bundesliga. So it's not great reading for Leverkusen going into this game. And for this reason, I'm going to go with the Arsenal away win. I reckon it's a comfortable 2-0 away win in the first leg, and in the second leg, I expect Arsenal to go through, maybe even the same scoreline, winning 2-0, and I expect them to not concede across the 2 legs. Let me know your thoughts on these Champions League predictions. What would you change? And if you enjoy this video, subscribe to the channel as well as liking the video.